Ladies and gentlemen, it's really a pleasure to be here today. As I was introduced, my name is Marta Suarez, and I would like to thank CTO organizers for having us here and for this great opportunity to exchange points of view. So I will start, before addressing the questions, I will start with the presentation I have, and then at the end, if that's okay, or even after the other speakers, I can address the questions. So I was requested to speak about trends in spectrum use and what governments and regulators need to do to ensure spectrum availability. So I have prepared my presentation with 3 remarks, 3 very concrete actions that I think will help regulators in their, and authorities when they will be back home on finding good opportunities in terms of spectrum usage. DSA, we are a global alliance, and we promote different technologies that enhance the use of the spectrum, promote affordable connectivity, and also foster innovation. So let me start by a statement. I will have a few slides here just to summarize what I have heard from many of the authorities yesterday and today. So I think there is an agreement that technology can change lives, but only if people have access to it. There is a clear indicator about 2.7 billion people that still don't have access to the internet. And I think, and we all agree on that, the most affected ones are those that are experiencing insecurity in terms of income and housing, racial and ethnic minorities, people with low literacy. I was very interested to hear about some of the countries where that is a huge problem. Also people with disabilities and other traditionally marginalized groups. So, and it's also very clear that simply developing the networks and providing connectivity access is not enough. I think there is an agreement that we need a holistic approach that focuses on affordable and accessible connectivity, computing devices, or any type of terminals. I heard that also from many administrations that meet the needs of internet users, and digital skills and content that makes sense for people to access the internet. But in my presentation, DSA only focuses on spectrum matters, so I will just focus on the first challenge, and that is affordable connectivity. And there are 2 important parts. One is how to rely on market, which is the good trade-off between public investment and market penetration, and how to enable affordable access. So my first recommendation, there is one slide missing, but okay. My first recommendation is performant Wi-Fi. So we have heard about broadband access, and my impression is that sometimes we feel that when we talk about broadband, it's exclusively understood as mobile access. And so I would like to highlight that we could have broadband access through different technologies. It could be fixed wireless access, it could be fixed access at home, it could be satellite broadband access. So it's not exclusively a solution that is provided by mobile. Mobile is very important, but it's complemented with good fixed broadband access. And for that, one of the technologies, the one that is the most used, is Wi-Fi. We had a panel about that yesterday, so I don't really want to go into the details, but it's important to take into account that it combines with all the technologies. If you are in a big city and you have very good fiber penetration, you need performant Wi-Fi not to have a bottleneck. But if you are in a remote area and the only way for people to access internet is through a hotspot, it could be a library, it could be a public shop, and then you have that satellite backhaul, you have many users at the same time, and they should also receive performant connection. So Wi-Fi is also useful in that case. And even for mobile networks, huge amount of the traffic is offload to Wi-Fi networks. So it combines with all the technologies, it's easy to develop, and it's also massive. We also give Wi-Fi sometimes for granted. We think it's there, but there are many applications. And not only for the latest technologies, it also provides solution, but that's my last use case for augmented and virtual reality, but it's also useful for small and medium enterprises. Many countries, it's hard to find a business case for commercial mobile networks. It's even harder to find it for small and medium enterprises. So most of them, they will continue relying on Wi-Fi. Also for agriculture, but not necessarily sophisticated applications. Sometimes you just want people to stay in the land. And that will be enough if you can provide them connectivity so they can continue working on the land. There are startups. There are factories. It's also useful for green transition because the most effective way is to have fiber and Wi-Fi instead of providing indoors connectivity exclusively through mobile networks. And the ecosystem is diverse, is growing very quickly. These are numbers from last year, from December last year, and there are more than 1,200 devices operating in the entire band, Wi-Fi 6E certified, that you can buy them if you enter to the internet. So this is a reality. It's growing, and it makes it affordable because now you can see most of the computers, the new computers, are including Wi-Fi 6E. More and more smartphones are including it, but also you have access points, TVs. So the reality with Wi-Fi is that it starts growing progressively, and you will have more and more devices with that included. Now let me go to the second recommendation. Second recommendation is use it or share it, or flexible spectrum frameworks. I'm glad Ofcom is here, so you can have a further discussion with Ofcom, but there is a framework created here in the UK about spectrum sharing that is very useful. There is a way to enable some frequencies that could be used by a large ecosystem or many stakeholders to provide connectivity when others are not using it, when the mobile operators are not using it, in those locations specifically. So that is the 1,800 megahertz band, 2.3 gigahertz, and 3.8 to 4.2 gigahertz band. So that is a great opportunity to enhance the system and also to have more stakeholders investing, because that's one of the issues, how to get more stakeholders investing in developing the networks. There is a case, I won't have the time to explain, but it's also, it's called CBRS. It was developed in the US, and it's a way to have in the same frequency bands, different tiers of access. So some of users have the priority, others have a license, so they can use the spectrum when the others are not. And the last tier is open for general authorized access. So they don't pay to use the spectrum, but they can only use it if others that have more priority are not accessing the spectrum. And that is very good because you can have many use cases that could be applied. They could be the traditional carriers using the spectrum because they get a license, but whenever they're not deploying the network, others can access. Those could be wireless internet service providers, those could be private networks, energy, universities, those could be neutral hosts that are willing to invest in the network. And my third recommendation, and this is the last one, is to empower local stakeholders. I think in many countries you have companies or enterprises or indeed in most of the cases there are local entrepreneurs that decide that they want to provide connectivity because they don't find it from the traditional networks. We call it wireless internet service providers, and DSA is a global partner of the Digital Access Program. We are very proud of that partnership. And we are conducting a study about WISPs in different countries, including Brazil. So I'm taking here the example of Brazil because I think it's a very positive example. In Brazil in 2021, it was the first time that the share of households with fixed broadband subscriptions surpassed mobile broadband subscriptions. So it's a change. You need the both, mobile access and fixed access. And there is a significant increase in the last years in terms of household penetration. The regulator there created a special category for internet service providers. They call it prestadores de pequeno porte. And are those providers with less than 5,000 subscribers. So it's not big companies, these are local companies, or that have less than 5% of the market. They have found different incentives for these companies to follow the regulations, to operate accordingly to the law, and they have been growing significantly. And what is very interesting, there are more than 19,000 providers in Brazil, and they are providing 48% of the fixed broadband access of the country. So it's positive because these are local companies, local jobs, they're providing connectivity, and they rely on flexible frameworks to access the spectrum or on license-exempt spectrum. So these are my opening remarks. I would be glad to discuss further. If you want to know more about us, we are having our DSA Summit in March in Rio de Janeiro this year.